You've heard it a million times, right? Someone says, oh, I'm just so left-brained, all about logic, or total right brain here, I'm the creative one. It's one of the biggest ideas in pop psychology, this idea of a battle between the two halves of our brain. But what if the real story is way more incredible than that simple myth? Let's get into it.
I mean, we've all been asked this, haven't we? Maybe you've even taken one of those online quizzes to figure out which camp you fall into. It's a really simple, kind of catchy idea that feels like it tells us something deep about ourselves. But is there any truth to it?
So here's the popular breakdown. On one side, you have the logical left brain. It's the analytical one, obsessed with details, language, math, facts, the straight A student. And on the other side, you've got the creative right brain. That's the free spirit, the artist, all about intuition, big picture thinking, and creativity. For decades, this has been the story we've been told.
But, as you can probably guess, anything that sounds that neat and tidy is usually a massive oversimplification. The real science paints a picture that's so much more dynamic. It's less about a strict division and way more about an incredible partnership.
Okay, so let's start with what's actually true. Your brain is split into two hemispheres, a left and a right. And one of the most basic rules of the road is something called contralateral control. It sounds complicated, but it just means your left brain controls the right side of your body, and your right brain controls the left side. Simple as that. From moving your fingers to seeing out of your right eye, it's all cross-wired.
So, if the two sides are doing different things, how do they not get their signals crossed? Well, they talk to each other, constantly. And they do it through this incredible piece of biological hardware, the corpus callosum. Seriously, think of it as a massive information superhighway, with hundreds of millions of nerve fibers firing messages back and forth. It's what makes sure that you experience the world as one seamless, unified person.
And how did we figure all this out? Well, the story is actually pretty dramatic. It all goes back to these wild experiments in the 1960s on patients who had their corpus callosum, that superhighway, surgically cut to treat extreme epilepsy.
Researchers like Roger Sperry and Michael Gazzaniga realized they had a once-in-a-lifetime chance to study what each hemisphere does when it's totally isolated. And as Gazzaniga put it, they quickly saw that each side had its own special talents.
Okay, so check out one of their classic experiments. An image, say, of a key, is flashed to the patient's left eye, which sends the info only to the nonverbal right brain. So when you ask the patient, what did you see? They say nothing, because the left brain, the one that handles speech, is totally clueless. It literally saw nothing. But, and this is the mind-blowing part, if you then ask them to pick up that object with their left hand, which is controlled by the right brain, they'll reach out and grab the key. Every time. The right brain knew it was there all along, it just couldn't talk about it.
Now this is the absolute key takeaway. These experiments proved that the hemispheres have specialized skills, a thing called lateralization, but what they did not show is that a person's entire personality is dominated by one side or the other, and that distinction right there is everything.
And the clearest example of specialization we have, by a long shot, is language. For the vast majority of people, something like 97%, all the heavy lifting for language happens in the left hemisphere.
Let's get just a little technical for a second, because this is cool. In the left frontal lobe, you've got Broca's area. That's what lets you physically produce speech. If it's damaged, you struggle to get words out. Then, in the left temporal lobe, you have Wernicke's area, which is all about understanding what's being said. If that gets damaged, you might talk up a storm, but it's just word salad. Two totally different jobs, both crucial, and both typically on the left side.
Okay, so we've established specialization is real. But what about the whole idea of being a left-brained or right-brained person? Well, this is where modern science really crashes the party.
Let's just put it out there, plain and simple. The idea is a myth, a fallacy. It's a really neat story, but it is just not how our brains actually work.
The real nail in the coffin came from a huge study back in 2013. Scientists scanned over 1,000 brains, looking for any evidence that people tend to use one hemisphere more than the other. And you know what they found? Absolutely nothing. Nada. Zip. Turns out we all use both of our hemispheres pretty much equally. The brain activity just shifts around depending on what we're doing at any given moment.
But hold on, because the science gets even cooler. The brain isn't just a great collaborator, it is shockingly flexible. And this next part, honestly, just blows that whole rigid left/right model completely out of the water.
It all comes down to this incredible concept called neuroplasticity. Basically, your brain isn't like a computer that's hardwired from the factory. It's more like clay. It's constantly changing, rewiring itself, and adapting based on everything you learn, do, and experience, and even in the face of serious injury. And if you want to see neuroplasticity in its most extreme form, look no further than a procedure called a hemispherectomy. To stop catastrophic seizures that don't respond to any other treatment, surgeons will sometimes do the unthinkable, remove or disconnect an entire half of the brain. And the results can be, well, miraculous. One study of 186 patients found that a staggering 73% either became totally seizure-free or had a massive reduction. I mean, just think about that. For people whose entire lives are ruled by seizures, this is life-changing. But it raises a huge question. What happens when you're living with only half a brain?
And here's where you see the true power of neuroplasticity. The remaining hemisphere can actually reorganize itself to take over the jobs of the one that's missing. Especially in children whose brains are still developing, that one half can learn to control both sides of the body and even recover complex skills like language that used to be on the other side. It is the ultimate proof of how resilient and adaptable our brains really are.
So when you put it all together, the real story of our divided brain isn't a story of competition at all. It's a story of amazing, seamless teamwork, with two highly specialized partners constantly talking to each other across that incredible superhighway, the corpus callosum.
The big idea to walk away with is this: the brain is a partnership. Having specialized hemispheres isn't a bug, it's a feature. It makes the whole system more efficient. The two halves aren't fighting for control, they're working together in this incredibly complex dance that creates, well, you.
You know, the whole left brain/right brain myth is such a great reminder that what we think we know is always changing. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other facts about ourselves do we just accept as true today that the science of tomorrow might show us is just another really good story?